Hello, it's Liz here. Welcome. This week I'm going to be sharing with you, I'm going to be continuing the watercoloring techniques. So I'll be sharing with you Emboss Resist with watercoloring. What do you think? All right, let me set that aside. I'll be using a stamp set called Apple Harvest. This is Apple Harvest, and this is from the mini catalog, the Fall Winter mini catalog. Set that aside. I'll be using this pattern paper called Rings of Love, and this is one of the free items through Celebration. It's already been used a bit here. Let me show you a few of these papers. And there's the backs of them. This is a Celebration offering going on right now. So you can choose this pack of paper for free with a $50 purchase. And let's see, what else will I be using? I'll be using a water painter. These come in a pack of 3 and they are in the main annual catalog. Versamark ink. I'll be using Stampin' Seal for my adhesive. And 3 different re-inkers. I have Poppy Parade, Old Olive, and Soft Suede are my re-inkers. And also, because it's just fun to throw in some embellishments, I'll be using brushed brass butterflies. Say that quickly. Brushed brass butterflies. All right, so let me get started. I just have a napkin. You can use a napkin or a paper towel anytime you're doing anything with watercoloring, just in case something gets a little too wet. All right, and the papers that I'll be using, I have Poppy Parade is my card base. Poppy Parade, it's 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock cut in half. This paper here is from that DSP that I told you about earlier called Rings of Love, I believe. Yes, Rings of Love. And this one is cut to 4 by 5 1/4. Set that aside. I have a piece of watercolor paper. This is the 100 fluid watercolor paper that is in our annual catalog. And this is cut to 2.5. Grid paper is awesome. Let's see. It is 2.5 inches by 5 inches. 2.5 by 5 inches is my watercolor paper. And then I have a thin strip of soft suede cardstock. This piece here really is going to, the size is going to vary depending on what words you're using, but I'm using it for the words here. So it is 3 3/4 inches, 3/4 inches by 3.5 inches, but again, that will change depending on what words you're using on your card. Okay, so let me set that aside and let's start with this here. I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper for my embossing. Sorry guys, the road in front of my house is being paved today, so there's a lot of action and things going on in front of my house. So it's being paved, there's landscapers across the street, and I'm a little distracted. But hang on a second. All right, so this is our watercolor paper. I'm pulling out my Versamark. And this is the large stamp that is in Apple Harvest. So let's get this well inked with Versamark. If Versamark is new to you, there are various ways to use it, but today I'm going to use it for embossing. I want it well inked. Let's set that aside. And we're going to press that down and just make sure we get lots of ink on there, because this ink is a wet ink and it is what the embossing powder will stick to. So let's pull that up. And this is white embossing powder. And this can be found in the annual catalog or online on my website. Okay, I'm putting a lot on there, but a lot's going to go right back into the jar too. So we're going to make sure we cover everything. Tap, tap, tap. Get rid of any excess. Okay, I'm going to set that aside for just a second. We might as well do the words at the same time, because I'm going to stamp the words and emboss those too. So I'm going into this Versamark. Let's get that real wet with ink. It's a little bit sticky, it's a little bit wet, so that the powder will stick to it. press that straight down here. We'll get all the embossing done at the same time. We can just scoop this up. We've got lots of powder on there, and let's get rid of that. If you have any little excess like this, you can just brush that off. We do have a new embossing little kit that's in the mini catalog, which is super cool. I don't have it yet, but let's set that aside. And then we can take this, tap this all together, and we're going to put it right back in that container. And that container of embossing powder will last you a long time. All right, let's get that out of here. And then we're going to do the little bit of magic part, right? If you've done embossing before, you know what I'm talking about. Here comes the magic. I'm using a heat tool, a heat gun here. Okay, we're going to spin it with 1 second to heat up a little bit, and then we'll start seeing some magic. It's going to go from a powdery look to a shiny look. And it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, it is magic every time. It was probably maybe 25 years ago, the first time I embossed with my mom, and I thought it was so super cool then, and it still just amazes me how this works. So you want to make sure you don't see any more shiny, any more of the like powdery look. You want it to all be shiny, and that's when you know that you've gotten it all. And just do a little quick over it. All right, we're good with that. Can you see where that's shiny? Let's set that aside. Let's get the words done. Blowing away from me. It gets very hot, so be careful. I'm going to put my finger at the other end here. You can also use a little scissors or a tweezer, something to hold that in place. Okay, turn that off when we're done with that. Okay, so that's the embossing. The greatest gift is a good friend. That's what the words say. I'm going to set that aside for just a minute. And then we're going to go ahead and do the watercoloring. I'm going to have a seat for this one. All right, what I'm going to do is I want the ink to be a little bit stronger. So I'm going to take these ink refills and I'm putting it right on a clear block, because then later on you can just wash it right off the clear block. So that's the soft suede. This is the Poppy Parade. And then this is the Old Olive. All right, and I'm taking the water painter here. Let's just get rid of the lid. And let's do the green first. And remember, it's watercolor, so don't be worried about staying exactly in your lines. I'm doing the leaves here. And this is called Emboss Resist, because wherever you embossed, the ink won't stay there. So it's very loosely that I'm going over these leaves. I'm not worrying about exactly staying in the line because it's not a big deal. Because it is white on white, sometimes you just have to turn your paper a little bit to see generally where are the leaves. But do you see how fast I'm going with it? I'm not really worrying about staying exactly in the lines, because that's the whole beauty of the Emboss Resist part of it. You already have lines that will stay there for you. Okay. We have another leaf in here. All right, I think that's the end of our leaves. So we're going to get rid of that color, and I'm just, can you see that on the camera here? Sorry, let me see. And I'm just going to squeeze out some extra water to get rid of that color. And then I'm going to go on to the brown, and there's just a little bit of some stems in here, some branches, I guess, branches. And I'm just following along the branches. I think think that's it of my branches. Okay, and then I'm going to go on to the Poppy Parade. Let's get rid of that color till it runs clear. We're going to move on to the Poppy Parade, and we're going to color in these apples. And again, if you go outside the lines a little bit, it's okay, and it's almost like you want that so that the embossed edging shows up. Have you tried this before? And this is called Emboss Resist with watercoloring. Okay, so I went over all of that. Everything there is colored in, and then you want to, let me just show you the original. And then you're just kind of filling in these spaces here to bring it all together. So I'm going to clean that off. And I want really, really light green. I don't want it dark anymore because it's just going to be the background filler. And I'm just taking this and filling in some spaces around the edging. Super, super light, like a wash. Just really light. Okay, and there you have it. And you just keep doing what you want. If you decide like, oh, maybe I want the leaf to be a little bit darker, you could just go tap back into that green there, and you can just go back over it. If you want some area to be darker than another area, add a little bit more green so you have more shading. Okay, all right, so there we go. Let me set that aside. Just gonna give that a second to dry. It doesn't really take a whole lot of time, but we're just gonna set that aside for a minute. I'll go ahead and put the rest of it together. Let's go ahead and put this piece on. There we go, all right. We're going to go ahead and put this. It dries pretty quickly. I'm actually taking this and I'm lining it up on the left side, all the way over on the left. And you'll see there's some space on this side, all the way on the left. And then I'm going to take the word piece here and I'm using some dimensionals. Put some dimensionals on the back just because it's always fun to have something on your card popped up. While I'm putting this on, just to remind you that celebration is going on now. And again, this is a time when with every $50 purchase, you may choose a free gift. That paper, this paper here is just one of the options, but they are available while supplies last. So the options will get smaller as we get to the end of August, which is when the promotion ends. So you could leave it like that, but let's add some embellishments. I have these brushed brass butterflies. I'm going to use my scissors. You don't want to ever just pull them up with your finger. Sometimes you lose the adhesive on the back of them because they are self-adhesive. So if you just take your fingers and pull on them, sometimes you lose that adhesive. So you can use your scissors, you can use a take-a-pick tool, but you want to be able to get underneath it so you don't lose that. We're going to stick this one in here. And there you go. That's it. And this is your Emboss Resist with watercolor. So I hope you enjoyed that. Give it a try. Hit that share button down below, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Glad you're here. Bye-bye.